In this session, I will discuss about odds ratio and risk ratio. This is one of the most frequently used outcomes in health studies in the status of disease, such as having disease or not having disease. Therefore, when we are dealing the things with the medical sector, then sometimes we have to have the studies based on the diseases such as the presence of the disease or not the or the absence of the disease. Therefore, if you are considering with the probability of having a disease is referred as a risk of a disease as a basic term used in description of such binary disease state. It is quite simple like this. Now think about if you are just having this, if you are having a disease, then this can be having in a binary manner. It means that the presence of the disease and the absence of the disease. Therefore, if you are investigating about this type of thing, then you can have the risk as the uh, it is just the probability of presence of a disease. Therefore, we can say it as a risk. Therefore, but what we are going to learn about the odds ratio and risk ratio, there is this is called as risk, but there is another thing called as odd. But these are not giving the same meaning. Therefore, according to the situation, you have to use whether you are using risk ratio or the odds ratio. Therefore, if you just pay the attention on the odds ratio, this means that ratio of two odds. It is very popular because this odds ratio, the thing or the outcomes that we are obtaining for this can be consider or compare with the exponent of the regression coefficients that we are obtaining from the regression. Therefore, once we are going to deal with the odds ratio, then there is somewhat a connection between the logistic regression. Therefore, we will try to discuss those things on the future sessions also. But in this session, I will describe about the odds ratio and the risk ratio. If you are going to deal with this odds ratio or the risk ratios, first of all, we need to pay the attention about the study, the way of we are following this study. Therefore, in generally, if you are going to study about the data, then if this data follows the binomial distribution, then according to the manner that we are having this study, then we can have two categories. It means, now think about this is the set of data that we are having, whether it is presence or absence. Therefore, since we are having only two outcomes, then we can say that this outcome follows a binary distribution. It is because these are binary outcomes. Therefore, if you are dealing with these binary outcomes, then we can categorize these studies into two categories. The first one is the cohort study, and the second one is the case control study. First of all, we will look about what is meant by this cohort study. A study design where one or more samples, we are calling them as the cohorts, one or more samples generally. In this part, we will say rather than saying samples, we are saying it as cohorts, are followed prospectively, and subsequent status evaluation with respect to a disease or outcome are conducted to determine which initial participants exposure characteristics are associated with it. Therefore, if you simply think about this here, what we are going to do under cohort studies, first of all, we are identifying the exposures and the people who are not exposed, not exposure. Therefore, these are the events we are having, exposure or not exposure. Therefore, using this set of or the using this sample, then what we are going to do is you are going to identify the presence or the absence of the disease. Therefore, if this is what we are calling as disease, then the presence of disease and absence of the disease. Therefore, if you are going to deal or if you are going to perform the experiment in this form, first of all, you are identifying these exposures and maybe some non-exposures. Therefore, among these set of people, simply people, as the what you have taken as sample, then you are going to identify whether they are facing with this disease or absence of disease. Therefore, this is what we are going to do under cohort study. Therefore, in here for the exposure, we are considering a sample for not exposed set of people or the observations. Therefore, we will take another sample. Then what we are going to do here is, in the first sample, we are counting how many people met with or the presence of disease and how many with absence of disease. And we are redoing the same thing for the sample obtained for not exposure. This is an example which explains about this cohort study. Now we will consider a sample of 50 smokers. Now we are saying about this is what we are saying, these are the exposures. Therefore, we will say this as 50 smokers, and we will take not exposed means, and we will take another 50 non-smokers. 50 smokers and 50 non-smokers are considered for this study. And then what we are going to do is, we are following them for a period of 5 years. And at the end of this 5 years period, we'll assume that all these 50 smokers are continuing their habit, as well as all these 50 non-smokers are have not changed their habit. It means that 50 smokers, they are doing this smoking regularly, and these 50 non-smokers at the initially as well as at this 5 years time period, they are not smoking at least one time in their life in this 5 years time period. Therefore, now if you consider about these are now, these can be considered as two sample, and at the end of 5 years we are going to identify who developed the heart disease. Therefore, in this table now you can see that in here we will have the exposure, and this is non-exposure, and then we are counting the presence of the disease and the absence of the disease. Therefore, in here we will ask for stroke, heart stroke, and there is no any heart stroke. Therefore, among these 50 smokers, it is identified that 50 people had strokes in this 5 years period, and among, even though they are smokers, the 39 has not met with any strokes in this period. And for the non-smokers, even though they have not habit of smoking, they are among these 50, 7 of them had the strokes, but among these 50, 43 does not met with any strokes in this time period. Therefore, if you are going to conduct a study in this form, then we are saying this as a cohort study. It means that first of all we are identifying the samples, and then we are going to identify whether the presence of the disease or absence of disease. But what we are going to do under case control, in case control, what we are going to do is, we are going to study or we are going to compare the patients who have disease or outcome of interest. We are saying it as cases, with the patients who do not have the disease. We are saying it as controls. And now what we are going to do here is, now we are going to ask about their past experience. Therefore, we can say that it looks back retrospectively to compare how frequently the exposure to a risk factor is present in each group to determine the relationship between this risk factor and the disease. It is quite like this. When we discuss about the cohort study, first of all, we identify the exposures and non-exposures. Thereafter, we seek for the presence of the disease and absence of the disease. But in the case control, what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to identify a set of people who are having disease. It means that according to this, we will identify 50 people with strokes. First of all, we are identifying, we are not going to pay any attention whether they are smokers or non-smokers without considering that. First of all, we are identifying 50 set of people. We can name them as diseased people and not diseased people. It means that according to this example, 50 people with strokes and 50 people still not met with any stroke. Therefore, here we can simply say presence of disease and the absence of disease. And if you consider about this term case control, it means that we are using the presence of a study is meant to be the case and the absence of the disease is meant to be the control. That is why we are naming this as the case control study. Now what we are going to do here is, now we are going to look back about their past experience or past what they have, their past habits. Therefore, now what we can do is, among these 50 people, now we are asking whether he is a smoker or non-smoker. Therefore, now first of all, we identified the absence of disease and presence of the disease and absence of the disease, and thereafter we are going to seek about the exposure or non-exposure. He is a smoker or non-smoker. Therefore, if you are going to conduct the study in this form, then we can say this as a case control study. And now we will discuss about the major part that we actually need to discuss. But this cohort study, the basic idea about this cohort study and the case control study will be helpful for identification of whether we are going to apply the risk ratio or the odds ratio. Therefore, it is because we cannot apply risk ratio for all of these cases. Therefore, according to the experiment or the process that we are going to do, then we have to select whether we are using this risk ratio or the odds ratio. We are using this risk ratio, normally abbreviated by RR. It denotes the first letters of these two words, risk ratio. And this used to identify the risk of a condition such as a disease between an exposed group and unexposed group. It is quite simple as previous. Now you can see that now we are going to identify the risk. We have need to identify the risk. It means that the presence of disease between an exposed group and the unexposed group. Therefore, in here what we are going to do is, first of all we are identifying exposed set and unexposed set, and thereafter we are testing for the presence of disease and the absence of the disease. Therefore, you can apply this risk ratio in if you are dealing with the cohort studies. Therefore, in simply we can say that we can use the risk ratio in the cohort studies. And when we are dealing with these cohort studies, for the cohort studies, we can identify relative risk and the absolute risk. We can see that the relative risk can be simply calculated using the risk ratio for a cohort study, while the difference of the proportion of exposed can be used to identify the absolute risk in the cohort study. Therefore, if you summarize about this part, now what we will get, first of all, we will get the cohort study. Therefore, only for the cohort study, we can apply this risk ratio. Therefore, in cohort study, we will have what we can say as the two parts for identifying this risk. It is the what we can say this as the relative risk. We can say this one part as the relative risk, and the next part as the absolute risk. To identify the relative risk, we can use this risk ratio, and to identify the absolute risk, what we can do is we can identify the difference of proportions of exposed. Therefore, these are the two techniques that we are going to discuss for this cohort studies. Therefore, basically we need to pay the attention towards this risk ratio. And this is the form of data that we can identify for a cohort study. Here we have identified exposed and unexposed group, and among them, then we have identified the number of diseased patient and number of diseased people and number of not diseased people. Here I have named these cells as A, B, C, and D. You can use as the form that I have named it. Therefore, now you can see that totally I have obtained A plus C number of exposed people and B plus D number of unexposed people. Therefore, you can say that among these A plus C, A has the presence of disease and C is the number of absence of disease. Therefore, B here, B number of people have the disease and D number of people does not have this disease. Therefore, this is the format that we are include or inserting our data if you are dealing with the cohort study, and using this type of data set, now we can calculate the relative risk and the absolute risk. To calculate the relative risk, what we can do is we can use the definition uh, which is used to identify, which is for the risk ratio. In here also, I told you that relative risk can be identified using the risk ratio. Therefore, now what we can do is risk ratio can be defined as risk of disease in exposed. In simply, we can say the number of it is just it can be written as a proportion. It is the number of diseased people identifying among these exposed people. Therefore, in simply, the number of having strokes among these smokers. Therefore, now we can take this ratio risk of deceased in exposed divided by the risk of deceased in unexposed. Therefore, the equation that we can construct for the risk ratio is the risk of deceased in exposed is in exposed. There are total of A plus C. Among this A plus C number of people, A has exposed, and this has to be divided by risk of deceased in unexposed. Therefore, totally unexposed was B plus D, and among this B plus D, there were B number of deceased people. Therefore, we can say that risk ratio can be obtained as A divided by A plus C totally divided by B divided by B plus D. And then we will look about how to calculate this absolute risk. Actually, this absolute risk can be obtained by just taking the difference in proportion of exposed. In here, you can see that it is the difference of proportion of exposed. Therefore, what we can do is here um, what we can do is absolute risk can be obtained as the difference of proportions. Therefore, here what we can do is here we are taking the risk of deceased in exposed. It is the risk of deceased in exposed minus risk of deceased in unexposed. Therefore, using this definition, we can say it as A divided by A plus C. It is because among this A plus C number of people, A was deceased, and among B plus D number of people, B was faced with this disease. Therefore, we can take this as the absolute risk. Now it can be obtained as A divided by A plus C minus B divided by B plus D. And if you consider about this absolute risk, we can test it using the hypothesis. Therefore, if you pay the attention on testing on the difference of proportions, we can use the hypothesis as there is a difference of proportion, there is no difference of proportion as the null hypothesis. In simply, we can say it as the difference of proportions equal to 0 versus alternative is difference of proportions not equal to 0. Or in other words, we can say that difference of proportions are equal versus difference or the proportions are equal versus proportions are not equal. If it is equal, then difference will become 0. That is how we have construct this hypothesis. And to test these proportions, you can simply use the Z test, and Z statistic can be written in this form: P1 minus P2 divided by square root of P bar into 1 minus P bar divided by N1 plus P bar into 1 minus P bar divided by N2, where this Z follows a standard normal distribution. Therefore, you can use the standard normal distribution to uh, make the decision. Therefore, to identify the critical values, you can use this standard normal distribution. And if you go through the terms of this test statistic, this P1 is the risk of disease in exposed. It is this amount, risk of disease in exposed, and P2 is the risk of disease in unexposed. Therefore, that amount would be B over this B divided by B plus D. Therefore, the P1 minus P2 can be simply say as the difference in proportion. Therefore, P1 minus P2 is simply difference in proportion. It has to be divided by this quantity. Actually, this is what we are saying as the error. Therefore, we can calculate it using the equation where this P bar is the mean value for these two samples. Therefore, it can be obtained using the equation N1 times P1 plus N2 times P2 divided by N1 plus N2, where N1 equals A plus C. It is the total number of exposed, and N2 is the total number of, or the sample size of, unexposed. A plus C is the sample size of exposed, and N2 is the sample size of unexposed. Therefore, you can use this equation to calculate the value for P bar. And this is how we are constructing the confidence interval for the difference of proportion. Therefore, it can be obtained as P1 minus P2. It is the numerator here. And we can say this as the difference of proportion. In simply, we can say this as the difference of proportion plus or minus Z alpha divided by 2 is the critical value that we are using. And according to the alpha percent significance level, we can obtain this value using the normal table, and this is what we are saying as the standard error. Therefore, standard error is the quantity that we can see in the denominator of this test statistic. Therefore, using this equation, you can construct the confidence interval. Now we will see an example for this risk ratio regarding with this cohort study. A study was performed to identify the risk of getting heart diseases among smokers and non-smokers. It means that first of all, they need to perform an investigation regarding the presence of heart diseases among smokers and non-smokers. Therefore, for this study, they have selected 50 smokers and 50 non-smokers, and they have observed these all these 100 people for this 5 years time period, and then they have identified, or they have just observed that or they have just noted down how many of them have developed the heart diseases. Therefore, this table contains the values obtained. Therefore, we can see that 50 smokers were selected and 50 non-smokers were selected. Among these 50 smokers, 11 had heart disease in this period, and 39 do not meet with any heart disease. But in these non-smokers, among these 57 met with heart diseases, and 43 does not met with any heart diseases among this period. Therefore, in here we need to calculate the relative risk and absolute risk for a we all know that how to calculate the relative risk and absolute risk since this is an cohort study, and we are asked to interpret it as the first part. Therefore, in the second part, we are asked to perform a proportion test, and we need to test whether any significant difference in the proportion of getting heart diseases among smokers and non-smokers under 5% significance level. And as the third part, or part C, we are asked to construct the 95% confidence interval for the difference of proportions. Now we will see how we can apply the things that we have learned so far in a cohort study like this. In the first part, they are asked to calculate the relative risk. Now you can see that we have considered this as cohort study. It is because first of all, we have identified the exposures and unexposures. Thereafter, we have identified the presence of disease and absence of disease. Therefore, to calculate the relative risk, we can use the risk ratio, which is defined as risk of diseased in exposed. Risk in the disease, what we can say as the presence of disease is the risk. Therefore, risk of the risk of disease in exposed divided by the risk of disease in unexposed. Therefore, here what we can do is risk of disease in exposed is 11 divided by 50. A divided by A plus C. If you write the values as A, B, C, D for the easiness of calculation, here this will be A, this is B, this is C, and this is D. And If you take the values, then this can be the said to be the total. A plus b equals 50, and then c plus d is also c plus d is equal to 50. Now what we can do is we can calculate the absolute relative risk using the risk ratio. Therefore 11a divided by a plus c, here actually it is a plus c, a divide a plus c, and here it should be b plus d, a plus c and b plus d. Therefore we can take the risk in deceased in exposed as 11 divided by 50, and risk of deceased in unexposed, therefore together there were 7 deceased people in this unexposed. Therefore we can divide it by 50 to identify the risk. Therefore 11 divided by 50 totally divided by 7 divided by 50, it is quite now equal to 1.57. And in simply you can see that since these sample sizes are equal, then just the ratio between these two are obtained here. 11 divided by 7 also equal to this 1.57. Therefore now you have identified that 1.57 as the relative risk for this calculation, and we need to interpret it. When you are interpreting this risk ratio, when you are interpreting the risk ratio, if this risk ratio, according to this, we can say whether there is increase in risk or decrease in risk. Therefore, if this risk ratio is greater than 1, if this risk ratio is greater than 1, then we can say that there is an increase in risk. There is an increase in risk. But if this risk ratio is less than 1, if this risk ratio is less than 1, then we can say that there is a decrease in risk. This is how we are identifying the increase in risk and decrease in risk based on the risk ratio value. Therefore, now if you go through this answer, then we can see that the value that we have obtained was 1.57. Therefore, we can say that you will have to use this the value which appears here as to identify whether it is increasing or a decreasing value. Therefore, according to this, since it is 1.57, since it is greater than 1, now we can say that there is an increase in the risk, and we need to identify how much is this risk. Therefore, what we can do is we can convert this decimal place decimal value into a percentage value. Therefore, now we can see that it is 0.57. If you just consider the decimal, it is 0.57, and this is multiplied with 100%. Once you multiply this with 100%, then we can obtain this value as 57. Even though this is obtained as 1.57, we have used this 1 to identify, you have used this amount 1 to identify whether it is increasing or whether it is decreasing, and this 0.57 quantity is representing how much it is increasing or decreasing. Therefore, we can interpret on this result as there is a 57% of increase in risk of getting heart diseases in smokers versus non-smokers. Therefore, if you compare the smokers with non-smokers, there is a high risk for getting heart diseases for smokers with 57% once you compare it with the non-smokers. Therefore, this is how you are interpreting the relative risk. And if you go for the second part, in the second part, they are asked to, in this part, there is one another thing. You are asked to calculate the absolute risk. Absolute risk can be obtained using difference in proportions. Therefore, risk of deceased in exposed, it can be obtained as A divided by A plus C, and risk of deceased in non-exposed as it is B divided by B plus D. It is quite like the numerator here and the denominator obtained for this calculation. Therefore, 11 divided by 50 minus 7 divided by 50 can be obtained as 4 divided by 50 if you convert it into a decimal value, or else if you just convert it into a percentage value. Now if you have this calculation, it is 4 divided by 50. 4 divided by 50. I need to convert this into a percentage value. Therefore, once you do this calculation, then I will get this value as 8%. Therefore, we can say that there is a 8% of absolute risk of getting heart diseases in smokers compared to non-smokers. Therefore, if you identify the absolute risk, it is now 8%. And if you move to the next part, part B, in here, you can identify, you are asked to test for the difference, whether the difference is significant or not. Therefore, the hypothesis that you can use is difference of proportions of getting heart diseases among smokers and non-smokers is equal to 0. Therefore, it can be simply saying that the proportion of getting heart diseases among smokers is equal to the proportion of getting heart diseases among non-smokers. Therefore, this difference of proportions can be now considered as 0 for the null hypothesis, and in the alternative, it has considered as difference of proportion is not equal to 0. And this Z test statistic is need to be used to test this hypothesis. Therefore, the values for N1 and N2 are 50 and 50. It is because 50 people identified in the exposed sample and another 50 identified in the unexposed sample. Therefore, among these values, then this P1 can obtain as it is quite this quantity risk of disease in exposed. It is this P1 according to the definition of these terms. Then P2 is the risk of disease in the unexposed. Therefore, there were 11 people. According to this data set, you can see that there were 11 uh, um, among these 50, and there were 7 among these 50. Therefore, this is value N1, this is value N2, and if you take the ratio in between these two, this one and this one, then 11 divided by 50 gives you the value for P1, and for the value of P2, we can get this. P2 is 7 divided by 50. 7 divided by 50, and you have already identified that N1 equals 50 as well as N2 equals 50. This is what we have identified so far. And now we will try to substitute them in the equation. But prior to this substitution, we need an value for P bar. P bar can be obtained using the equation which we have learned previously. The equation to calculate P bar was, it is N1 times P1 plus N2 times P2, and this has to be divided by grand total, it is N1 plus N2. Therefore, what we can see in the P bar is 50 into 11 divided by 50 plus 50 is value of N2, then P2 is 7 divided by 50 divided by grand total, it is 50 plus 50. Therefore, this calculation gives the value for P bar as 0.18. Now all the necessary terms have identified, all the numeric values for all the necessary terms have identified. Therefore, you can apply this, substitute this value in this equation. Then the substitution will be in this form. 0.22 is the value for P1, 0.14 is the value for P2, and then this quantity has to be substituted accordingly. The values has to be substituted accordingly, and then we can get the value of Z dash 1.0417. This is the calculated value for Z. Now, since we need to test this hypothesis, this calculated value has to be now compared with the critical value. To identify the critical value, you can use the Z table, or it is the distribution with this standard normal distribution. Therefore, once you refer the standard normal distribution, then you will get this as Z alpha divided by 2. This is the region that we are considering. It is because we are getting the normal distribution. It is quite a bell shape, a symmetric distribution. And if you are considering alpha as the rejection region, since this is a two-sided test, then one side will be with the alpha divided by 2. Therefore, you have to identify two regions. This region have the value with alpha divided by 2 and this having alpha divided by 2 value, and this is symmetric around value 0. Therefore, now you can say that since this is the rejection region, we need to identify, and since we need to identify this quantity, it is 0.05 divided by 2. Since alpha is given as 5%, therefore this quantity would be 0.025. Therefore, if you go through the standard normal table, then we can easily identify this value is equal to 1.96. But if you compare this value with the calculated value will be somewhat here. It is because the value obtained or value calculated was 1.0417. Since the calculated value is less than the critical value, we can say that the calculated value does not falls into the rejection region. Therefore, we are failed to reject the null hypothesis under 5%. If we are saying that we are failed to reject, this means then we are failed to say that there is a difference. Therefore, we can say that there is no difference among the proportion. Therefore, if you compare or if you check for the significant difference among the proportion of getting the heart diseases for smokers versus the non-smokers, we can say that there is no any significant difference. And this is how we are performing the hypothesis for, or the hypothesis testing on the hypothesis for the difference of proportion equals 0 versus difference of proportion not equals 0. And in the next part, it is asked to obtain an interval. It is said to be this 95% confidence interval. Therefore, we can use this equation. And if you go through this equation here, you can see this is what we have already obtained as the difference. And this quantity is meant to be the standard error. And this is a alpha divided by 2 is the critical value that we have already obtained. Therefore, if you're going to construct the 95% confidence interval, then we can say that the difference of proportion will be vary in this region. Then the difference is now obtained as 0.08. It is just taking the difference in these two values. Therefore, if you have already performed the hypothesis testing, then it is better to do the calculation for numerator and denominator separately. It is because it can be directly applied in this calculation. Therefore, here you can see that P1 minus P2, it is the value in the numerator 0.08, then plus or minus this Z alpha divided by 2 is the critical value which we have already identified as 1.96 into this is what we have identified as the standard error. It is the value which we can see in the denominator of this calculation. Therefore, this value would be now 0.0768. No need to repeat the same calculation again and again. Therefore, you can apply the values. If you have correctly done in this step, you can directly apply them in this calculation. Thereafter, since it is plus and minus means you have to find the lower bound and the upper bound. Therefore, the confidence interval for the 95% confidence interval for the difference of proportions have identified as minus 0.0705 and the upper bound is 0.2305. If you just go through the region that the difference can be higher, it is 0.0705 and it takes the value up to 0.2305. Now you can see that the value 0 contains in this region. Now you can see that the value 0 is somewhat here. Now you can see you have identified this as the region or the confidence interval for the difference of proportion. Now you can see that 0 also included. Therefore, now it is reconfirming the result that you have obtained here also. It means that we can say that difference is equal to 0. Since this 0 is included in this region, we can say that the difference among proportion is 0. It means that there is no any difference among these two proportions. It is getting these heart diseases for smokers and versus non-smokers. Therefore, the result that we have obtained in part B is now confirmed in here also. Therefore, to check whether you have concluded correctly, you can still use the confidence region, or this once you construct the confidence region or confidence interval. Now you can see that since this zero included in here, you can say that there is no any significant difference. Therefore, this is how we are dealing with the risk ratios, and actually we are dealing the things with the cohort studies. Now we will pay the attention towards the calculation of the odds ratios. And if you go through this odds ratio, it is abbreviated by this OR, the first letters of odds and this ratio. Then the odds ratio is used to identify the odds of a condition, such as identification of an exposure to a certain event in disease, what we say as the case group, and not disease, it is the control group. Therefore, it is quite the taking the odds between this disease and or the case group and the control group. Therefore, this is used in the case control studies. That is what I have told you previously also. For the cohort study, in generally we are using the risk ratio, but for the case control studies, in generally we are using the odds ratio. In the case control studies also, you can identify the relative risk as well as the absolute risk. In the case control studies, relative risk can be identified using the odds ratio, and you can still use the proportion, or the difference of proportion exposed can be now used to calculate the absolute risk in the case control study. And if you see about this case control study here, we are not going to identify any risk. It is because we have already used a set of data according to the risk. It is just the, if you see about what is the data that we are going to deal with here is, first of all, we are identify in the case control studies, first of all, we are taking the details on the presence of the disease, and another set with absence of the disease. Therefore, since we have already identified a set of people with the disease, therefore, again, we do not need to calculate any risk for those groups. It is because at the initially, we have identified the disease group as well as the not disease group. Therefore, once we are dealing with the case controls, we are not going to deal with any risk ratio. And if you compare this odds with risk, if you compare the odds with risk, it can be considered in this way. Now think about in the risk ratio, we are generally getting it as a percentage. If you are getting this as 50%, it means that it is the proportion is equal to half. It means that the risk of disease in exposed versus divided by the risk of disease in unexposed. But in the odds, what we can do is, what we can here, we can have it as a ratio in this way. Therefore, we can say it is 1 to 1. Since we are comparing the, it is 50. If it is 50, how we can divide this? If it is 50, we can divide this as 1 and 1. Therefore, if you consider this as exposed and this is not exposed, therefore, this is how we have obtained this. According to the total, we are taking this, but in the odds, we are taking the ratio in between these two. Therefore, if the risk is 50-50, then odds will be 1 to 1. If now think about if the risk is 75%, if the risk is 75%, now what you can say, it is 3 upon 4 as a fraction. We can say this 75 as a 3 upon 4. Therefore, if you draw this in this form, now you can say that is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Therefore, now if you compare, there is 3 upon this 4. Therefore, now you can say that odds is now 3 to 1. That is how we are comparing, or this is the difference between the odds and risk. Therefore, similarly, if you consider about 1 over 10, if it is 1 over 10, it is 10%. 10% means 1 over 10. Therefore, what we can do is altogether, there would be 10 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Therefore, among these 10 parts, now one is identified. Therefore, now you can say that the odds is 1 to 9. Therefore, there is only 1 and there are 9 remaining parts. Therefore, this is how you are identifying the risk and the odds. Therefore, if the risks are given, then odds can be easily calculated as well as the vice versa. And now if you come back to this odds ratio, then you can use the following equations to deal with this odds ratio, or if it is a case controlled study, identification of the relative risk and the absolute risk. And this is the form of data. It would be same as previous. It is A, B, C and D would be marked according to same as previous. But here we have to take the raw totals. It is because at the initial we are identifying a set of disease, and set of not diseased. Therefore, we can get the total as A plus B and C plus B, C plus D. A plus B is for the number of deceased and C plus D is for the number of undeceased. Therefore, among this set of deceased, we will now look back to their past experience. It means whether they have exposed or whether they are unexposed for some risk factor. In this case control study, if you ask to calculate the relative risk, this can be obtained using the odds ratio. That if you use this calculation for odds ratio is meant to be it is just a ratio between odds of exposures in the cases. Cases means the presence of disease divided by odds of exposures in the controls. Controls in the sense absence of disease. Therefore, odds of exposures in the cases can be obtained as A divided by B. A divided by B, it is just the ratio between these two. Therefore, odds of exposures in the controls can be now considered as C divided by D. It is because now we have to take the ratio between exposed and unexposed in the controls. Then we can say the odds ratio can be now taken as A divided by B into C divided by D. Therefore, if you solve this, then it is given as AD divided by BC. Therefore, if you take this cross multiplication, therefore, then if you take the ratio between these cross multiplications, then we will end up with this odds ratio. Therefore, AD has to be divided by BC to obtain the odds ratio. In the odds ratio, we need to inference on the odds ratio. Therefore, if you in the inferencing, we need to test whether this odds ratio is significant or not, as well as we need to construct the confidence interval for odds ratio. Now we will see how we can inference on the odds ratio. Therefore, if you are going to test the hypothesis or test hypothesis for odds ratio would be odds ratio is equal to 1 versus odds ratio is not equal to 1. Odds ratio is equal to 1 versus odds ratio is not equal to 1. It is quite like this. Now think about if you are considering the odds ratio. If you are considering this case as A and this case as B, now what will happen if this A divided by B equals 1? Therefore, it means that the odds of these two parts are equal. That is why we are testing this odds ratio as 1. It is because A is the odds of exposures in the cases and B is the odds of exposures in the controls. Therefore, if these are equal together, then we will get the odds ratio as 1. That is why we are testing the hypothesis as odds ratio equals 1 versus odds ratio not equal to 1. But even though we are testing, we need to test this in generally for the calculation procedures. Rather than taking this odds ratio equal 1, what we are going to do is we need to consider the natural logarithm of both sides. Therefore, in the test hypothesis, what we are going to do is, as the null hypothesis, we are going to test for the natural logarithm of odds ratio. Therefore, we can get the natural logarithm of 1 equals 0. That is how we are getting this ln of odds ratio equals 0. Therefore, rather than using the first the stated hypothesis in here, rather than using this hypothesis, you can use this hypothesis. It is because It is quite easy to perform the calculations if we have converted this using the natural logarithm. Therefore, rather than testing for odds ratio equals 1, we are testing for natural logarithm of odds ratio equals 0 versus alternative is natural logarithm of odds ratio not equal to 0. And the test statistic used to test for this hypothesis is this still it's a test statistic, and it is defined as this ln odds ratio. It is the natural logarithm of odds ratio minus the hypothesized value. This is the hypothesized value, or the value that we can see in the null hypothesis. Now it is equal to 0, and it has to be divided by the square root of 1 divided by a plus 1 divided by b plus 1 divided by c plus 1 divided by d. You can take this as the value as the standard error value for the natural logarithms of odds ratio. This can be considered as the this value would be the standard error of the natural logarithm of the odds ratio values. Therefore, if you need, you can simply obtain this using just by seeing the histogram. Then first of all, you need to identify for the symmetricity. Thereafter, what we can do is then we can perform the calculation, and we can identify that the standard variance would be 1 over a plus 1 over b plus 1 over c plus 1 over d. Hence, we can take the standard error in this form as square root of 1 over a plus 1 over b plus 1 over c plus 1 over d. Therefore, we can directly use this test studies to test for the odds ratio, for the significance of the test ratio, odds ratio, and then we can say that this follows a standard normal distribution. Therefore, you can use the standard normal distribution for the decision making. And if you consider about the odds ratio, we can construct a confidence interval for odds ratio. Therefore, in generally, we are constructing the odds ratio for the natural logarithm of the odds ratio. And I will use one calculation to show how we can convert it back for the odds ratio. But in generally, what we are going to construct is we are constructing the confidence interval for the natural logarithm of the odds ratio first. Thereafter, we can convert it to the confidence interval for the odds ratio. And so far we have discussed about the relative risk for the case control study, and now we will pay the attention for the absolute risk. In here absolute risk is the proportion of exposures in case minus proportion of exposures in control. Here we have identified that there are now a number of exposures in this group and C number of exposures in this group. Therefore, we have to divide those values by the group totals. Therefore, this proportion of exposures in case can be obtained as A divided by A plus B, while the proportion of exposures in control can be obtained as C divided by C plus D. A divided by A plus B minus C divided by C plus D gives you the difference in proportion. And if you calculate this absolute risk, here also we need to test for their significance. Then the hypothesis can be used as the null hypothesis would be difference of proportion equals 0. It means that there is no difference in proportion, or the proportions are equal. Therefore, the null hypothesis is difference of proportion equals 0 versus alternative is difference of proportions not equal to 0. Same as previous, we can use the set statistic. What we have will be same as the equation will be same as the equation which you have discussed under cohort study. Therefore, we can use this equation to calculate. But if you see about the definitions, I still this P bar n P1 is the proportion of exposures in case. It means P1 is still equal to A divided by A plus B. It is the proportion of exposures in case. P2 is the proportion of exposures in control. It is now equal to C divided by C plus D. And P bar is same as previous. We can use the equation. But to get the value of N1 and N2 here, now this N1 is the number of observations in the disease group, number of observation in the disease group, and N2 is the number of observations in the not disease group. But in the previous one, it was in the exposure and unexposure group, but here it is for the disease group and not disease group. N1 is now equal to this raw values. Now the raw totals will be taken as N1 and N2. And here this to construct the confidence interval, you can use this equation. This P1 minus P2 is the difference of proportion, and the quantity inside the square root is said to be the standard error, and then Z alpha divided by 2 is the critical value. And this is one example that I have to discuss under this case control study. Here they have selected 50 heart disease people, or 50 people had the people had the strokes. They have counted 50 among them, and 50 people without no heart diseases. Therefore, they have selected two sets, one set with presence with heart diseases and another set with absence of heart diseases. Therefore, these are the values they have identified, 50 and 50. And for these people, they are asking about their past behaviors regarding the smoking, the smoking status for past few years. Therefore, they can the people who have identified with the presence of heart disease, 15 of them has told that they were smokers, but 35 says that they are not smokers. But among these no heart disease people, there is 10 number of smokers were there and 40 non-smokers are there. And for this set of values, we are asked to calculate the relative risk, and in the next part, we are asked to calculate the absolute risk, and for both parts, we are asked to inference on these results. Therefore, here what we can do is first we can calculate the relative risk and inference on it, and for the part B, we can calculate the absolute risk. To identify the absolute risk, we can take the difference of proportions. Now we'll see how we can perform this calculation and obtain the answer. This is the solution I have obtained. For the first part, relative risk is needed to calculate. Since this is a case controlled study, it is because we can see that first of all, we have identified a set of people with presence of disease and the absence of disease. Thereafter, we have searched for the exposure and the unexposure for the risk factor. Therefore, odds ratio can be now taken as the odds of exposures in the cases divided by odds of exposures in the control. It means that it is quite the ratio between these two, and these two has to be divided together, divided by each other. Therefore, we can say this as simply use the calculation. It is A divided by B completely divided by C divided by D. Therefore, the rearranging of these values end up with AD divided by BC. Therefore, what you can do is you can multiply this. These are the values that you have identified as A, B, C, and D. This was the places of the values. Then what you can do is first you can take the cross multiplication of 15 and 40, then take the cross multiplication of 10 and 35. Then you have to take the ratio between those two calculations. Then 15 into 40 divided by 10 into 35. Then we can say this value is equal to 1.71. Therefore, if you interpret on this, we can say that there is 1.71 fold higher odds. Here we are not calculating any risk. It is because we have already identified about the people with risk. Therefore, it is just the people with heart diseases. Therefore, we can say that there is a 1.71 fold higher odds for heart diseases in smokers versus the non-smokers. Therefore, this is how we are calculating the odds ratio and we are interpreting it. And after calculating the odds ratio, we are asked to inference on it. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to test whether this odds ratio is significant. And then what we need to do is we need to construct the confidence interval. And here all these decisions will be made on by considering alpha as 0.5. 0.05. It is just the 5% significance level. The hypothesis that we are going to test for odds ratio would be odds ratio equals 1 versus odds ratio is not equal to 1. Rather than testing for this hypothesis, we are preferred to test for the natural logarithm of these quantities. Therefore, now we can rewrite this h naught as it is the natural logarithm of odds ratio equal to 0 versus natural logarithm of odds ratio not equal to 0. This is how we are performing the writing the hypothesis, and we can use the Z statistic to test this hypothesis. Then this is the form, or this is the equation. It is ln of odds ratio minus 0 is the hypothesized value divided by the standard error. It is given as square root of 1 over a plus 1 over b plus 1 over c plus 1 over d. Once you do the substitution, then you will get this value, and it would be better if you can solve the numerator and denominator separately, and then you can say that value of Z is obtained as 1.1432. And now what you need to do is you need to compare this value with the critical value. Here also, since we are using alpha equals 0.05, then we can say that alpha divided by 2 is now equal to 0.025. Therefore, what we can do is now we can identify the table value associated with the 0.025, and therefore it is actually this 1 minus this quantity in the table. It is here you can see that the normal distribution would be like this, and this part would be now equal to 0.025. If your table gives you the value for this region, then you can definitely find for this value as 1.96, or else in generally the tables give most of the time the left the area of the left hand side. Therefore you have to test for the table for 0.9750. It is because it is the 1 minus alpha divided by 2 value. Here we are considering this as the 1 minus alpha divided by 2. Now it is given as 0.9750. Therefore, once you seek for this value in the normal table, you can simply get this value as 1.96. Therefore, now you can compare the calculated value with 1.96. Therefore, we can simply say that the calculated value is less than the critical value. Therefore, it is not falls into the rejection region. Then we can conclude on this as since the calculated value does not fall into the rejection region, we have failed to reject the null hypothesis under 5% significance level. Therefore, it can be concluded that there is no significant difference in the odds of being smoker among the heart disease versus the not heart disease under this 5% significance level. Therefore, after doing or performing this hypothesis testing, you have to interpret the result, or you have to tell your result. Therefore, this is how you can write your result of testing this hypothesis. And you can construct the 95% confidence interval. This can be used as the equation to construct 95% confidence interval. And first of all, what we are going to construct is we are going to construct the confidence interval for the natural logarithm of odds ratio. Therefore, and previously also I told you that this is the equation we use to construct the natural confidence interval for the natural logarithm of odds ratio. Then you can do the substitution, and already you have obtained the all these values. It is because in this calculation you can see that ln odds ratio minus 0 gives you the value for numerator, and the quantity inside this square root is appears in the denominator. Therefore, if you need, you can directly take the values from the previous stage. Therefore, once you do the substitution, then you are getting the confidence interval for natural logarithm of odds ratio is minus 0.3563 comma 1.4833. And if you see about the decision here also we failed to reject h naught. It means that so far what we learned was ln of odds ratio is equal to 0. Therefore, now you can compare this with the result we obtain here. It is minus 0.3563 and the upper limit was 1.4833. Therefore, what we have obtained this for the confidence region for the confidence interval for natural logarithm of odds ratios, and you can see that 0 contains in this region. Since 0 contains in this region, you are failed to reject H naught. It means that this ln OR can take the value 0 also. Therefore, still we can confirm it using the confidence interval also. And so far we have done all the things to the natural logarithm of the odds ratio, but actually what we need to do is we need to consider about the odds ratio. Therefore, what we can do is, since we consider this for natural logarithm of odds ratio, therefore we can consider these values as the exponent of the base e. Therefore, you can simply take the confidence interval of the odds ratio, just writing these values as the exponents of this base e. Then you can write this as the e to the power minus 0.3563, and the upper bound would be e to the power 1.4833. Therefore, you can see that the confidence interval for odds ratio is now equal to 0.7003 and 4.4075. Now, if you look about this region, what you can see? In this region, you can see it is 0.7003 and upper bound is 4.4075. Now you can see, so far we have deal with the natural logarithm of odds. But actually, if you see about this, this is the actual hypothesis we need to test whether the odds ratio is equal to 1 or not. But if you see about this region, now you can see that 1 includes in this region. The value 1 includes in this region. Therefore, now you can say that the same results we are getting from this region also. Here we can say that, now we can say that odds ratio can be have the value as 1. It is because this region contains the value 1. Therefore, if you just need to obtain the confidence region for the odds ratio, what you need to do is you need to write these values as the exponents with the base a, which you have obtained for the natural logarithm of odds ratio. Therefore, this is how we are constructing confidence interval for natural logarithms of the odds ratio as well as for the odds ratio. Therefore, first you need to get the values for the natural confidence interval for natural logarithm of odds ratio. After that, you can simply obtain the confidence interval for odds ratio. The second part of this question says about the absolute risk. To calculate the absolute risk, what you can use is the difference of proportion, and it is given as the proportion of exposures in case. If you see about this data set, first of all, we are identifying the deceased. First of all, we are identifying the deceased and not deceased here. And we are identifying thereafter we are investigating for exposures and unexposures. Therefore, the values we are getting here is A, B, C, and D, and we are considering for the row totals. It is A plus B and the C plus D would be the totals we are getting. Then, if you consider about this proportion of exposures, in case exposures mean A divided by A plus B, then proportion of exposures in control is the absence of disease. Then the number of exposures in this quantity, this sample was C, then C has to be divided by C plus D. Therefore, the difference in proportions can be now obtained as A divided by A plus B minus C divided by C plus D. Then you can see that this difference is obtained as 15 divided by 50 minus 10 divided by 50, which ends up with the 5 divided by 50. Then you can now convert this fraction into a percentage value, just multiplying this simply by 100%. Therefore, we can say that there is a 10% of absolute risk of being a smoker among heart disease versus not heart disease. Therefore, it means that simply say that the risk of being a smoker among heart diseases versus not heart, no heart disease, a person with not heart diseases, the absolute risk is 10%. After obtaining the absolute risk, you are asked to inference on this. Therefore, what you can do is you can check for the hypothesis with the whether the difference of proportion equals 0 versus it is not equal to 0. Same as previous, you can use this test statistic where now the P1 is you can take this value and P2 can be now taken as the proportion of exposures in control. The only thing that we the differ is in the previous one we had the samples as exposures, but here we are having samples as diseases. Therefore, what we can obtain the values as N1, N2 still 50 and 50. Then value of P1 and P2 0.3 and 0.2, and using this set of values, then you can obtain the value of P bar as 0.25. Now using the appropriate substitution, you can do the calculation and it has obtained as 1.1547. Then you can compare this with the critical value. It is the standard normal table value. It is obtained as 1.96. Then you can say that since the calculated value does not fall into the rejection region, it is quite like this. Now, if you see about the normal distribution, this is where you have identified the critical region 1.96, and this part is the critical region, and the calculated value for this was identified as it is somewhat here 1.1547. Therefore, now you can see that the calculated value does not fall into the rejection region. Therefore, you can conclude that you are failed to reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, we can say that there is no any significant difference in these proportions. Then we can construct the 95% confidence interval, but here it is no need to consider for this ln or the exponent. It is because here we are still dealing with the proportions, not with the odds ratios. Therefore, we can simply use this equation and you can see that the value for P1 minus P2 is the value obtained at the numerator, and the value obtained at the denominator can be used for this quantity, including this square root. And you can take this Z alpha divided by 2 as 1.96. It was the critical value we have identified from the standard normal table. Therefore, once you do the calculation, the substitution, and you can get this calculation as minus 0.0697 and 0.2697. And here also, if you go through the region that we have obtained is 0.0697, and the value you obtain here as 0.2697. Then you can see simply you can see that 0 has now included in this region. Therefore, you can say that the value 0 also can be taken as the difference. Therefore, we can say that there is no any significant difference among the proportions. And this is for the odds ratio what I need to discuss, and therefore thank you all for joining with this session.